history of troubled relationships.
Yeah, and history of troubled, interpersonal relationships. When I met my ex early on, she made little comments about her relationship with her dad and her family life, and she was instantly a victim. It's like she started that game real early. I think to test me and see where I would go with it, but especially romantic relationships, they seem to always be a victim, and they use that, they play that role. It's a very effective. When early on, when I was just friends with her, she told me how her ex-boyfriend cheated on her. He had beat her, supposedly. Well, as it turns out, none of that was true. She was the one that cheated on him, and she did the same things to him that she did to me. Turns out he's really a pretty good guy. He's gone on, married someone else, and done really well for himself. But I didn't know that starting out, and looking back, it's like I've got friendships that go back to third grade, even farther than that. I've got long history with people. I've got good friends that, for years and years and years. My relationship with my first wife, I was young when I married her. We went through all kinds of stuff, but ultimately it was a great relationship. It takes time to see it because they will lie to you. They will paint the picture like they want you to see it, but ultimately all of their relationships are going to look like this. It's going to be tumultuous, on-off, and typically they're always going to present themselves as a victim.
Exactly. Self-absorbed and arrogant.
Yeah, it's the narcissism. I'm trying to think of a good example with that. I mean, it's just, oh boy. I know in my experience, she was very, her appearance, you could just tell, I'm really kind of drawing a blank on an example, but everything was about her. Everything was always about her. And, I'll say this. If I've got a stomach ache, suddenly she has a stomach ache. And they take the attention, whatever it is you're going through, it becomes about them. Even down to, she was around when my grandmother was sick and passed away. Somehow she took the attention. It became not so much about my grandmother or the fact that I'm losing my grandmother. Somehow it became about her. They always get the attention away from everyone else, and it's about them. And they'll just say things. I'm kind of drawing a blank on that one, but, just odd statements that make you realize that they only think of themselves, And mine was, she was obsessed with her appearance, and she made a statement to me one time that what was it? Something like she knew that she could get anybody she wanted, and it was clear that she believed that, So I don't know. I don't think I did a good job with that one, but
no, that's true. That's a good example. Like, you should never, if someone is capable of saying that, unless they are laughing after and say, "I'm joking,"
right.
If they're dead serious, you look at their face now, but they're dead serious, you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that thinks like that, because that's exactly what that is. That's arrogance. You might be in a relationship with a narcissist or someone with some type of issue going on to feel, they say, people who feel like they have to they have to, hear like compliments and have to be praised and all that stuff. Actually, they're the ones with self-esteem issues, and so they need to be, reminded constantly of them doing well, of them excelling, of how beautiful or handsome or whatever they are. So watch if this significant other shows that type of trait, because it'll probably only get worse. I don't think it's going to get better. So that's definitely something, a key factor. Everything we're talking about right now are key factors that we want you guys to listen to and ask yourself if out of all the traits that we express to you guys, if you at least a good 4 of them, I think you are in a situation, you're in a relationship with someone that has some serious issues, and it might be time to start reevaluating that situation and maybe removing yourself from it.
Right.
I think this will be one of your favorites, Trenton. No accountability.
Oh, absolutely.
No accountability.
You know, I talked about it earlier. She would deny something, deny it, and then ultimately, all of a sudden, she would admit it, and she would beg for my forgiveness. She would even go so far that, I'm so sorry I do this to you. I don't know how you can put up with me, this and that. So then all of a sudden it's like this cycle, because she's denied it, and all of a sudden she's admitting it. So then you feel validated, and you get this false sense of hope. And then, but none of the behavior changes. So the next day or 2 days later, they repeat the behavior, and they go right back to denying it again. And that's where you have this real breakdown in your own ability to think rationally and to trust your own instincts. I think you got to see action. Talk is cheap, and these people are great talkers. They're very charming, and they can talk a great game. But there's no action. I mean, as I look back, I told you earlier, she never fulfilled any of her promises, none of them. But yet she kept me hanging on for 6 years based on these false promises and hope. And it's like at the end of it, I'm looking back and thinking, well, wait, she never kept any of them. So you got to see some action. If the action doesn't go along with what they're saying, then you got to really, really question it. I know with her, that's the bottom line, that there was just this real disconnection between what she said and what she did. And the words and the actions just never matched. And ultimately, there was no price to be paid. Like with the affairs I was talking about, if someone's really sorry for what they did, then they're going to, they're willing to let you look at their phone maybe, or say they're going to be home at 5 o'clock, they're there at 5 o'clock. There's no excuse for it. You got to start somewhere to rebuild the trust, but she was never willing to sacrifice anything or do anything to prove herself. So there's just no real accountability. Everything's just talk.
Exactly, and I believe that really sets the stage for the next one, which we kind of already been discussing, which is chronic victim role. Oh, yeah.
You
did this, you did that, you.
Yeah, it's, number one, it's really, when I look at it, she presented herself that way to me in the very beginning. And as a man, I think we have this kind of built-in instinct to rescue the damsel in distress,
Exactly.
I know I'm that way, and I see it all the time. And that doesn't, and I want to make real clear, this isn't a male-female. There's people with this personality disorder of both sexes and victims of both sexes, obviously. So it's not a male-female. I'm just talking from my male perspective. I know that's me. I want to rescue the girl, and knight in shining armor kind of a thing, and they know that. They are very good at picking up on that. So when they present themselves as a victim, we kind of blindly rush in and try to rescue them and try to make everything okay. And so in the very beginning, long before the romantic relationship started, she was presenting herself that way to me, and I'm thinking, oh, this poor girl, and nobody's ever treated her right, and she's such a great girl, and that whole thing. And I realize now, she was a victim in her childhood of her parents. She was, and I'm saying not necessarily that this is true, but this is how she presents it. She was a victim in her first relationship with her first boyfriend. She claimed to me that she was raped by him, and it turns out I don't think that's true. I don't want to say for sure, but it doesn't appear that it was. And then her second boyfriend cheated on her and beat her. And I know with me, I really busted my ass to be a good husband to her, be a good boyfriend, a good husband. And I found out later that she ran around trying to indicate that I abused her and that I did all these things. Meanwhile, she's coming home to me and telling me, how sorry she is and what a great guy I am. And she's going around to other people and telling them. And it was almost like, I don't think she said it so much real directly, but she would indicate, like, you play this role like she was being beat up at home or she was being abused or whatever. There's no truth to it. But it's powerful. It's real powerful. They get a lot of attention by being the victim, and they get a lot of, they figure out who's going to come in and rescue them. And it's a powerful tool, really manipulative.
Man, this stuff just got me thinking, because everything that's listed on here, I feel like just about every last one I've been through. Manipulative, for real. Manipulative. Manipulative. The manipulation.
Is that the next one? Is that the next one on the list, or you're just pointing out the...
Yeah. Manipulative.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a real key one right here.
Huge. Again, I look back, and it's like all the red flags were there. If there are red flags, just above everything, don't ignore red flags. We all have faults. We all have our we're humans. We make our mistakes or whatever. But if there's a pattern of something, if there's these red flags, run. Early on, you got to run. They don't change. They're warning signs. And I blew right by a bunch of warning signs, red flags, and manipulative. It's like I said earlier, it's like she would get this look on her face and the big tears and cry and tell me she needed me to help her and no one's ever been good to her, and so I would that was a manipulation. And then if that didn't work, she'd be this seductress. I mean, she was very, very good at that. Very a lot of sexual energy, and she used that to her advantage big time. And then, like when you hear the things, like I just was talking about, she would tell me how sorry she is, how great I am, and then I'd hear these little things where she's telling other people something totally different. So there's no truth to the things she's saying. She's manipulating people all around her. And that's really what they do. They're manipulating everyone in their life. That's how they get through life. And again, like I said before, it's like if you have the sense that you're being manipulated, you are. Get out. We all know what manipulation is, and we just can't ignore it. They give us all the evidence we need, but we try to ignore it, I think.
Exactly. Preach it, man.